Well, thanks so much, SK. Well, welcome to Episcopal Charities' 15th semi-weekly update call. As you can see, it's just a little bit different today. Our board chair, Peter Keller, who usually hosts these, is not here with us this week. And so you've got Mary Beth and myself, our executive director. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to do a couple of things today. We wanted to share a little bit about what it's been like for Episcopal Charities and how we've had to adapt. We've talked a lot about how our programs have adapted in the context of COVID-19, and we wanted to share a little bit about how we've had to adapt. And so we kind of wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit and show you what's going on. We have a lot of you who are watching mostly through Facebook. And so we want to do a shout out to our Facebook audience out there, whether you're watching it live or you're watching a recording of it. We would love for you to comment, share this video, put your questions on if you're here right now. We have SK Doyle, our Associate Director of Programs, who's monitoring that. And so we'll bring your questions and comments to the rest of the group so we can talk to you about that. So what was Episcopal Charities like before the pandemic hit? Well, it was pretty typical office kind of stuff. You know, weekly staff meetings where we'd gather in Mary Beth's office, sitting around the table and kind of going through our list of what we're doing and kind of think through strategy stuff going on. It was always fun because SK and I actually share an office. So we'd be talking the entire day, talking about issues coming up or programs. Maybe it was Elizabeth coming in and talking about some development piece, but people could easily drop in and out of each other's office as we were all here together. We were still using email, of course, and Slack and Monday and all those kinds of pieces. But it had a very different feel to it, right? As a program office, we were still able to go to programs. We were in zip cars and on Metro North and on the subway system every week. When SK was meeting with volunteers, like she could sit down and have a cup of coffee at Starbucks with them. So all of these interactions that we had, both within Episcopal Charities and with diocesan staff, clergy that would be stopping by the cathedral close, all those kinds of things, that's how we were operating. And then everything shifted on about March 16th. And I think I'll let Mary Beth kind of share a little bit about what that experience was like for us.
Thank you, Patrick. So since March 16th, we've all been working from home. Patrick's up in Riverdale. I'm on the Upper West Side. Amalia's up in Washington Heights. Elizabeth lives in Rockland County. And SK has been working remotely from many places. She started in Brooklyn, moved to her parents' house in Louisville, then moved to the Isle of Palms in South Carolina, then Charlotte, and now she's back in Brooklyn. It has been back for at least a month or so. So she easily wins the competition for pandemic travel. So what does a typical day look like now? Since our first day we started working at home, we had a conference call. And then the next day when we expected to meet that way, we had, there were two of us who couldn't get in because the lines were so jammed. So from that day on, we started Zooming. And if you were to drop in on our daily staff Zoom meeting, you'd not only hear about all the projects that we're working on that day and projects that we're thinking about longer term, and who needs help from who on what, but also, you know, what fascinating show we might be watching, or what favorite restaurant might have closed, or the trials and tribulations of living through a pandemic with your pets. So that's our daily Zoom. And then we have many other Zoom meetings. On Fridays, we meet with a small group of board members to review emergency COVID grant requests. And that's also an opportunity for us to update them on what we're hearing from the programs that have either shut down or started working again, or started operating again. We have a weekly Zoom call with program leaders to give them an opportunity to share their concerns or issues they're facing. Other program leaders on the call can then share suggestions, something they might have tried. or a solution that they found or resources that they know of. Some weeks it's become a brainstorming session on specific topics, and I think that's been very, very helpful to some of the program leaders. They certainly feel like they're not alone at this time. As the summer wraps up, our advisory committee members have been completing their site visits to the summer programs. As a reminder, we visit each program annually. So the difference this year since March is just that many of those visits have been virtual. Patrick and SK have made it out to some programs where that seems like the right thing to do. But in many cases, we're just dropping into a summer camp virtually or meeting with the program director to talk about what's happening at their program. SK, as Patrick said, has continued to meet with volunteers about placements within the programs. The difference is, instead of a cup of coffee, they're maybe having a cup of coffee on Zoom. We have scheduled a number of Zoom calls with clergy, with program staff, and our last 2 board meetings have been held on Zoom, and we have another one coming up next month. So it is, we have adapted to work just like any other, corporate organization or other nonprofit has. We've also adapted to some of the new realities of how we have to work. This spring, we completed our annual audit remotely, which never thought I would say those words, but we were not on site with our auditors, but we were able to get them all the information they needed to do their due diligence remotely, which is great. So that's something you want to put off. We also...
And they liked us still.
Yes, and the audit went beautifully. We also created our annual report virtually instead of poring over photos and text, with each other. We all gave our input and were able to manage that remotely. And because the emergency needs are coming in so quickly from programs, we began actively raising more money through outside grants. And those grants, along with some board allocated reserve funding, has allowed us to really respond to the immediate needs that the programs are facing. We have also spent time increasing our social media presence, and we're grateful to all the programs that have been so great about sending us content, and so we can showcase how they are responding to the pandemic. And for program directors who are watching, keep the program content coming. We acquired an online application to help us and our programs better recruit and manage new volunteers. And SK has been managing the implementation of that platform. So important at this time, since many of our programs relied on elderly volunteers who don't feel safe volunteering at this time. So we'll have more details on that in the future as we roll it out to all the programs we serve, if they want to be involved. So those are just a few of the highlights of what we're doing and how we're working to be there for our programs. We couldn't do this work without the generosity of our partners and supporters, so thank you very much. As of last Friday's grant review meeting, we have awarded $360,000 in emergency grants to our programs. And those are just to deal with the added costs they're experiencing as a result of the pandemic. As we begin to, we'll be starting our basic human needs grant cycle in the fall, and we're in the early stages of planning around how we will execute that cycle, how we'll perform the site visits, how we will make sure that we're giving the programs everything they need. We're also planning for our fall gala. The tribute dinner will be held virtually this year on Thursday, November 19th. So please mark your calendars for that. We hope you'll be able to join us for what is shaping up to be, I think, a really wonderful event. In the meantime, we continue to welcome any additional financial support. It's easy to donate. SK will put a link to our website in the chat box if anybody wants that. It's ec-ny.org. And there's a donate button prominently displayed in the upper right-hand corner of the homepage. You can also go to the website to volunteer to help out at a program. And we have both virtual and in-person opportunities. So have a look and see if there's anything that interests you. And I think that's it, unless we have any questions.
Yeah, we'll see if there's been any questions from SK here.
See. Don't have any questions here or on the Facebook yet.
Okay.
Great. Well, I mean, so what we wanted to show you today is not just that our programs who have been doing incredible work and adapting to this new reality, but show you a little bit of how we've had to kind of pivot the way in which we do our work. So it's not just that we are kind of just doing everything the way we did it last year. I was just thinking about this with Mary Beth. Like, last year was my first basic human needs cycle, and I was like, oh, good, I've got this now. And now we don't, because it's going to be a very different experience. But learning how to pivot, learning how to adapt in the midst of all this is so important. So unless you have anything else, Mary Beth, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Well, thank you all for checking in, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.